since May of last year, come to you as often as we can and bring you updates on what's happening in the immigration world, which has become increasingly difficult since January 2025.
Yeah.
So anyway, Zayra and I have been working together now for 15 years. We've been out in the community. We've been talking about this a lot for the past 2 days. We're here together in Mexico City, reminiscing, kind of a retreat to figure out how to handle some problems. We started our law firm, Zayra and I and a few other of the founding members, by going out in the community and doing workshops, helping people with naturalization. Then DACA came along. We did a lot of DACA workshops, handled more than 1,000 pro bono DACA applications. We provided immigration consultations, helped people find solutions they didn't know they had. Over the past 12, 13 years, I've done thousands of naturalization pro bono, and we're really proud of that heritage. We've done more than 10,000 pro bono hours in casework, removal proceedings, and special juvenile immigrant visa, VAWAs, a lot of humanitarian pro bono work. And then there's our signature case, asylum for the deaf. All of those were done low bono, pro bono. And today, we are still fighting against the same enemy, which is from immigration consultants. The one that I can't believe is still like a thing, but people who worked at the USCIS that start an office and say, it's okay, I used to work at the USCIS. Again, fraud.
Like paralegals,
Yeah.
and many cases, like I tell Hadley that, they're so in the community because they help with buying your house, preparing your taxes, and might as well,
Babysit your kid.
might as well your
Yeah.
immigration
Yeah.
process. So it's just like a one stop place, people like rely on because they're like, I trust her because she helped me with this or that. And we also get family so important to us that many times we just get guided by them or whatever they say. So like if somebody went and it went great, they're like, share all this information with families and friends. And that's how these things keep happening.
They take root.
They really trust this person. But I keep telling the customers that call us, just because one case they did right, which is the one, that doesn't mean they haven't ruined life 100 times. Maybe 120, 100 have been bad. It's just like a cycle that we continue, even though we've seen so many things. I remember back in the day, I used to see more news about, maybe not on see much,
Yeah.
TV. And I used to see a lot of, oh, this person claimed that he was an attorney and he defrauded thousands of people.
Yeah.
And now his office is closed. And now there's all these people waiting outside trying to get answers. And
Yeah,
it
there
seems
used
like
to be more law enforcement shutting them down.
now people are going back because it's cheaper. And, like, I can't afford to do that now because I might get deported or I might get detained and all these things. So let me just go to this person who's going to, quote unquote, charge me less. But we ended up finding out that, they actually don't charge more less than us, a little more. It's really sad what these people do. They're criminals. They practice the law illegally. They don't know more than you do. It's frustrating to take that away from our community because they just, like I say, trust these places so much, or they so-called, organizations that help the community, but then, they ended up defrauding and taking advantage of their situation.
I mean, the reason why we're bringing this up again is because one of our colleagues at work, Jose Luis, told us that there was an ad for people who wish to take an immigration consultant class in LA. And the tagline was, "Now is your time to shine. Take this immigrant consultant class." And we, as a very experienced, established, successful law firm, are struggling with the community, trying to get them to understand their rights, duties, and applications they can file. And then we find out that we're fighting against somebody who's giving them advice but took a class in downtown LA, for probably 8 hours and paid $1,000. I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, it's crazy this happens. And so when we found out about this class, and it must be happening everywhere, we went on social media and we found the ads on social media that these classes to become an immigration consultant exist. For me, it's basically the same as saying, take a class to become a criminal. Now is your time to shine. Commit crime. That could be our tagline. Now is the time to shine, commit crime. You can commit crimes every day by filing applications for poor victims in the undocumented community who don't know any better. They will believe in you because you can call yourself a notario. A notario is an attorney in Mexico and Latin America. So people are going to believe you. That's exactly what's happening. Ari and I talk about this every day because we still see it every day. Somebody tells us they went to a notario and we try to fix their case. And a large portion of the time, we cannot fix it. It's destroyed. If they had just gone to an attorney in the first place, they would be great. They would have a green card or naturalized or whatever.
Yeah, we just had a case in Colombia. Both were defrauded by paralegals.
I mean, people who worked for immigration attorneys, they were paralegals.
It sounded like he had his own office. So they really believed he was an attorney. He filed their affirmative asylum because she went to the Virgin Islands of the US, but ended up
Oh, yeah.
starting removal proceedings because of that. And he went back to him and he's like, you screwed it up. You screwed up your case. I can no longer, we have to start all over. This is going to be, now you have to present it to the judge. But he's like, I can do it again, but I cannot represent you in front of the judge because I'm not an attorney. And she was in shock because she was like, what do you mean you're not an attorney? I'm not. I'm a paralegal, whatever he called himself. And now these ladies in a really bad situation because he filed his affirmative asylum. Then he was going to file the defensive asylum
In court.
but, I can't go with you to court because I'm not an attorney. Same thing happened with her husband. He had defensive asylum since the beginning. He went to another paralegal, immigration assistant, whatever they call themselves. Same thing. They file for things and they're like, oh, sorry, I cannot, go on with this process because I'm not an attorney.
I'm surprised even when they admit it. Normally they don't. The poor victim goes back to find them and they're gone. Where as an attorney, we're regulated. We can't just disappear. That we would be disbarred, maybe even a criminal offense there. We must maintain files for people for 5 years. But they don't have to maintain anything. They're criminals. You can't impose a duty on a criminal. They're defrauding people. I mean, right now we're talking about people that file a case that, they probably learned about how to file an I-130 because, maybe a family member did it. They believe they know all of the legal issues of filing an I-130. And that's one type of preparer and consultant that criminal in their actions. Consultants can do very basic operations. If you take an I-130 form to a consultant with all the information ready, the consultant can type it in. That's allowed. But if you go to a consultant and say, I want to petition my child, how do I do that? And the consultant says, oh, you need to file an I-130. They have committed the unlicensed practice of law.
Because they're advising you on what to do.
Exactly. So that's the type of notario consultant we've been talking about for the past 5-10 minutes. Then there's a whole nother level that Layla Parvis, she was in the consulate of Guatemala yesterday, and somebody there told her that they filed a petition with an immigration consultant in Florida. They later found out that that consultant gave them an I-797 notice of action form from the USCIS that was faked. It was somebody original I-797 where the consultant had figured out how to change the information using technology and led these people to believe that they had a case filed. And, upon asking some attorneys and, attorneys can usually look up a case with the receipt number, found out nothing was ever filed. That's happening all the time. And more so now with Trump announcing every day something anti-immigrant, anti-undocumented community. Yesterday or the day before, he announced that people here after a removal order are liable for $989. I might not have the exact amount correct.
998.
$998. Every day past your removal order, you are accruing this fine. If you've been here for 20 years and, like $355,000 a year in fines that you're liable for. So they're going to try to attach the fine if you can't pay, and they'll start proceedings against your property. And a lot of people do have property that have removal orders. They have personal property, which is cars or tractors, equipment, tools, boats, I don't know, just anything personal. And then there's real property, which is a home
Yeah.
that the administration can attach a lien to if they prove these individuals owe fines. That's what Trump is attempting to do now.
Yeah, it's just like every day there's something new, which
Yes.
obviously really horrible to take and to explain to our clients and people seeking help. And it's just so distressing for like everybody. Hadley was talking to somebody today who's like under a student visa, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And she was like crying, and she was saying how her family is really relying on her to really, make it in the US in order for her to have help her family to have a better life in their home country.
From India, and she's at the University of California. She got a scholarship. She's going for a master's degree. This happened to dozens of students. I know more about California. I don't know if it's happening nationwide. The
Sure.
F1 student visa system called SEVIS, SEVP is another acronym, just suddenly revoked their visas. We believe one reason is ideological, protesting in favor of Palestine. The other reason is they might have been arrested or convicted of a crime. I've been talking to these people and giving them options. Not a lot we can do other than advise them. That's happening right now in the news. People are probably hearing about that. And then the Supreme Court backed Trump on his law to deport people to
Any
the
of the
enemy of the state.
that was another low punch. We believe this was not gonna take place, and now they're like, oh no, they did believe that.
Yeah, what we're talking about every day, Zara, is why aren't people seeking help from immigration attorneys?
We talked to so many people. Most of them have ways to be able to start a process. There's a lot of them that are the ones that wish they had one and are willing to start now. And the ones that have it, they're like, let me think about it. I don't have money right now. And it's really hard to understand. They're scared, trying to find out what's going on. But then at the same time, when we tell them, yeah, you're eligible for this and that, they're like, oh, let me think about it, instead of moving forward. That's the one thing I share with Hadley. My dad came here in the 80s. His first case was denied, but he didn't give up. He continued to fight for it, and he was able to get a status. And then he was able to bring us 6 kids and my mom to this country. His persistence and willingness to fight. When I think about my dad, he always worked minimum wage jobs, really hard jobs, and he still was able to provide for his family, to give us a status. Now we're all U.S. citizens. I think our community needs to be persistent to fight for things, not just wait and see what happens. I understand that they're, thinking about what if, like, what if I get removed? What if I get detained? Who's going to support my family? But if you don't take action on something that you're eligible for and you're willing to risk, then you're just going to stay there. We talked to many people here for 30 plus years and they don't have anything. And I asked them, like, what happened? Why didn't you apply to for 245I? Or, oh, I know. I thought that I was just going to go back to my home country. Or, oh, I didn't think about it. I didn't hear it. That was a big deal
Mhm.
because it was like the last real,
Yeah, I mean, that was the George W.
yeah.
Bush was the last iteration of that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
and it was 2001.
difficult because I know that, my dad didn't have it easy and he didn't have money, but he was still willing to do whatever it took, fight for a status in this country and to bring 6 children and my mom.
Yeah.
So I think about when I see people that come in like brand new cars or they work in construction. I know that they are making a lot of money, but no, they're not willing to invest in something that is gonna give them such a stability and still and be able to stay in this country. I told Hadley their priorities are all messed up.
Okay, as you're talking about, I'm thinking about it being emotional. We have this client, we found out her husband's not eligible, and she is eligible for a green card. He's not eligible, so she wanted to stop that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that's just like, "Okay, let's give up everything because it's not going
No
exactly
way.
perfectly." I just don't understand the emotions that are involved. What your dad's story is about was determination, and I really don't understand the paralysis people have now. And that's why we're going out in the community, because I think people are afraid to come to a lawyer sometimes. Maybe they feel like it's too much of a commitment. If I walk in there, I might hear something I don't want to hear. Or if I hear that I have a chance, then I have to pay money. It's analysis paralysis. They just can't make a decision because of something that's not working the way they want to. But what we're seeing right now, children that call us bawling, crying because their parents are detained. The girl I talked to earlier, her mom has breast cancer in India, and she was saying, "I can't go back. My family will be destroyed because I didn't make it." This was just today. I can't tell you how much tragedy we've heard over the past few months. I wish when I see somebody floundering about making a decision that they could have been in the room with how painful it is and how many people are affected when somebody is detained or deported or lose their status. Most of the time, avoidable. One last thing, Zara, I had somebody in Mexico City tell me today, the people in the US undocumented did break the rules. What do they expect when they break the rules? But they broke the rules because US companies or farmers wanted cheap labor. So that's why they came. They didn't come to overstay. They came because somebody in California needed strawberries picked, or somebody in Texas needed their apartment complex built. So there was an invitation to come, and we all have to take responsibility for that. I'm wondering, the people being arrested, like you told me 47 people were arrested on a construction project. The people running that project are not happy.
They just showed up with buses and loaded 40 something people, all wearing their helmet, their construction outfits. This lady was recording a video when they were like detaining people, and they're like, "Why are you detaining like people who are working and not criminals? What go and pick up the good people that are just working hard and making this country better?"
I've been hearing people talk on the news. I didn't know Trump was gonna go after those people. I thought he was just gonna go after the criminals, and, we've been saying it all along. There are not this great number of criminals in the undocumented community. The incidence of criminality in the undocumented community is very low, and especially when you compare it to people like citizens.
Hmm.
The crime rate for citizens is much higher than in the undocumented population. I think the Venezuelan gang activity has been exploited and overblown to make people have fear and to justify all this stuff that's happening. Because, I mean, we deal with thousands of people every year and hardly see this. Hardly. I mean, we know that some of our clients have DUIs and domestic violence, but the number of those people are just, I'm gonna say less than 5%.
And I mean, we talked to so many people, like Hadley and I together for 15 years now, and she's been practicing for more than 20. So, we obviously understand, the group of people that come to us and they need help. And then to see news making us look like horrible people, criminals, rapists, the worst in society, when it's not true. It's really difficult. We're constantly seeing videos of women getting detained and taken out of their car by force. They're good people. They're just happen to be most likely defrauded by notarios or by bad attorneys that advised them wrong, and they ended up having a removal order or whatever it is. Now they're facing the reality that they have that on their background and looking for them directly, even though they don't have any criminal background, except that they happen to have this removal order that a lot of them don't, many don't know how.
Yeah, because we're victims of notario fraud. You know, this is where how notario fraud has always been. You know, back in the early 2000s, notarios filed asylum for people. People believed that they were filing for a work authorization, and they were not informed because it's all criminal, it's all fraud. They were not informed they were filing for asylum. And in the mid 2000s, they all were getting removal orders. We so many removal orders, 2000 till about 2012, for people that were victims in this kind of notario fraud. And I mean, that's what we really want to focus on in this podcast and tell you the new fraud schemes we hear every day. We told you about what happened in Florida with the fake filings where they gave their client fake notices that they had filed something.
They also included people that were not in the U.S., right? That's the you were talking about.
Is that the consulate of Guatemala had one of those fake I-797s that he thought, another one is VAWA. That's the other fraud that we're hearing about. And this is even happening with attorneys, that they're filing for VAWA, that they have a U.S. citizen child or green card holding child and claiming that child is abusive. I think the people who file it don't know that. They're just showing they have a U.S. citizen child.
Yeah, we have a consultation yesterday. She asked me, "Can you explain to me about what VAWA is?"
Yeah.
I thought it was strange. So I asked her, like, "What do you want to know? Like, why is you specifically are asking for this?" It's just that I saw, was it an attorney?
I think an attorney.
Yeah, she's like, that said that we can file for VAWA. I'm like, is your son being abusive to you? Like, no. Okay, well, when we had to explain what VAWA is, and had nothing to do with her, but there was an attorney claiming that if you have a U.S. citizen spouse or child, you can file for VAWA. This lady was asking for it, and
I've been hearing this a lot lately in consultation. People asking about VAWA. Violence Against Women Act relief for victims of abuse by a U.S. citizen or green card holder. Just for clarification of what we're talking about. And that's what we're doing here. We're telling you about different types of relief. We're trying to stick with trending topics. Please continue to follow us. We have a Zoom call on the 16th. If you wish to come into the Zoom call and talk to me directly, please let us know. You can reach us at the information presented at the end of the podcast. We're glad to give you a free consultation. And yes, continue to follow us.
Yeah, and answer your questions or concerns or whatever you're hearing on like social media or whatever it is that you're, on TV. A lot of of our clients rely on the news a lot, obviously. So
Yeah.
constantly watching that, but they catch certain things that they believe is something that they could be eligible for, But once we dive deep and we actually get the information, ended up that they don't really are eligible for that. But that's why we're here to answer your questions. And
Give you the hard truth.
many times we have to tell them, sorry, you're not eligible.
Many times we say you are eligible.
So please get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Consultations are free. We invest the time explaining everything to you so you're not a victim of fraud by somebody who takes advantage of you because of current.
Yeah. Those who are going to shine by committing crime. We don't want them to take advantage of you.